Watching us tonight, what you absolutely have to know about your government. That is the subject of this evening's Talking Points memo. New stats on Obamacare in. Once again, younger Americans not buying into the program. That means there will be a huge deficit in the mandatory affordable health care law. Right now, about $48 billion a year allocated for Obamacare, but more could be spent. Also, the feds get 3% of every health care policy sold, and that could bring in hundreds of billions, but it still might not be enough. Now, why should you care? The main danger facing all Americans is not al-Qaeda, it's the Treasury Department. Right now, the federal debt, how much we owe as a nation, $17.3 trillion. $17 trillion. Since President Obama took office 5 years ago, the debt has increased 63%. And in 2014 alone, at least $560 billion will be added to the debt, bringing it up to $18 trillion. Happy New Year 2015. That's a massive problem, massive. And it's not really being addressed in Congress. The new budget calls for more than $3 trillion in spending. But as I just said, that's $560 billion more than the feds are going to take in from we the taxpayers. Again, why should you care? Because it's very possible that the U.S. dollar could collapse if the people who are lending our government money, China et al., begin to pull out of the bond market and other U.S. investments. Armageddon. Also, the feds cannot continue printing dollars to pay our debts, or the dollars will lose buying power. Right now, the USA is playing a very dangerous game with the currency. Many Americans don't want to pay attention. In fact, some Americans don't even know who Joe Biden is. They're texting all day, all night. But unless voters start to demand that the feds pull back on spending, all of us are going to get hurt. All of us. It's just a matter of when. Once again, Talking Points feels like Paul Revere. I'm galloping around. But half the country doesn't care. Democratic Party surely knows the danger on the horizon. But are they doing anything about it? Are they trying to find ways to cut spending? No. Same with President Obama. He doesn't seem all that concerned about the Titanic national debt. And Titanic is the right word. Our government has got to stop the insane spending. We'll see what happens next November when voters get another chance. And that's a memo. Now for top story tonight, reaction from a very liberal guy. No, a liberal guy, not very liberal, liberal guy. Juan Williams. Do you save your money?
Of course I save money.
Okay. You had to pay for college for your son, right?
I did.
Okay. So you're not a crazy spending kind of guy, right? You live within your means. Is that fair to say?
You know, when you grow up poor, you know what? You're very sensitive about money.
Okay. So you didn't have anything when you were a kid.
Right.
Parents didn't have anything. Now you're a big success. But you still put money away.
Yeah.
Okay. So you ought to be right on my side here, because there is a possibility that all the money that you have, all the dollars that you have saved, okay, those dollars are going to crash. You know what happens when a currency crashes? All right?
Yep.
All your savings, everybody watching, everything they've worked hard for their whole life can dissolve. Because now we have a debt that's irresponsible. It's irresponsible to carry an $18 trillion debt. Now, you're a liberal, you're a Democrat, you're an Obama supporter. Your party, your president, and your philosophy all say we must continue spending at a record rate. That's the fight between the Republicans who want smaller government, less spending, and the Democrats who want bigger government, more spending. How can you, Juan Williams, justify that?
Look, you're a good man, Bill O'Reilly, or should I say Paul Revere, because I think
I am Paul.
I think you're sincere in trying to wake up America.
Yes.
Okay. But here's the thing. It's too much doom and gloom, and you risk having people say, oh, Bill O'Reilly says the sky is falling, and ignoring some facts. Let's look at the facts. The spending as a percentage of the economy done by the federal government right now at about a 30-year low. 30 years low.
$3 trillion budget?
The deficit.
No.
Yes, it is.
$3 trillion budget isn't a 30-year low.
It's about, no, as I said, it's a percentage of the economy, Bill.
Oh, come on.
Okay, no, I'm just telling you.
Come on.
No, I'm being straight with you. No
right,
shell game. Okay, the deficit.
Go ahead.
The deficit has been cut in half in the last 5 years.
But that's ridiculous because they ran it up so big, and now you're saying because they ran it up. Look, Juan, you're a baseball fan,
yes,
right?
but they ran it up because of what?
Because
we were in a terrible recession, and we were involved in 2 major wars.
No doubt.
Okay, so slow down. And the final point to you is, you know what? We have about the lowest number of federal employees, despite the fact the population is much bigger. We got all the retirees. The lowest number of federal employees in like the last 47 years, Bill O'Reilly.
Well, they don't take much of the money anyway. But let me just put forth this. If both parties would say, you know what, 18 trillion is unsustainable as a debt.
Right.
So both parties embrace an austerity plan because of the foolish mistakes that we made. Letting Wall Street sell all these irresponsible mortgages. Foolish mistake, okay? And both parties are involved. Both parties.
Thank you.
Iraq, I wouldn't put the word foolish on it, but it was a mistake.
Right, okay.
It was a mistake. For blood and treasure, how much we spent there.
Okay, all right.
So we acknowledge our past mistakes. We, the USA, Congress, both parties. Now we have to be austere. You know what the word of the day is, austere. You know what that means,
There we
right?
go. Let's do it.
You oppose that?
No, unless it's done in a way that is foolish. And at this point, when you say that the United States economy is in the midst of a very slow, protracted recovery,
right,
and we need to make sure that economy continues to grow. Wall Street's booming. We're still the #1 place for global investment, the United States of America. You got to say that too, Paul
Yeah,
Revere.
well, what's the other choice?
No, I'm just saying.
There's no other choice.
Well, you said a minute ago, what happens if people start to pull out the bond markets collapse? There's almost no chance because guess what? We're the #1 place for global investment.
Right now,
but
that could change.
Okay.
You don't walk the wire like that. All I'm saying is that voters of both parties have got to stop the nonsense. This is not the time in history for social engineering.
I would agree.
That's where the money's going.
No, it's not.
Oh, it is so.
Let me just tell you something. You're a conservative kind of guy.
I'm not conservative.
A minute ago I was a liberal kind of. I was a
no doubt you're that.
Oh, okay.
I'm independent.
And you're independent.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, I'll buy that. Yeah. All right. So here's the thing. Why don't you think the politicians do what Bill O'Reilly, Paul Revere suggest, which is let's make a deal. Let's talk about...
Because it's pork. It's too much pork. They all want
wait a minute.
Pork.
Oh, no. You point fingers at the liberals, the Democrats.
That's the liberal philosophy.
And why is it that you think then that the Republicans refuse to say to the rich in this country, we've got a problem if you think that the debt is such a problem, and we've got to get it down for future generations? Why aren't they responsible? Why aren't the rich responsible?
You want the
Bill
rich
O'Reilly?
to pay down a debt?
No, I think everybody. Didn't you just say people have to, as Americans, come together and do what's
Juan,
pragmatic?
I got to go, but just take a look at the chart. The wealthy in America are paying almost all the taxes now.
Oh, look, the tax rate right now is what it was back in the 90s.
You want their houses?
No, you stop. Look, I can't believe that you are a mouthpiece for the rich. You should talk. You should be a man standing up for the people.
I am. And I want both parties to come together.
There we go.
Stop the spending nonsense.
Now you're back to Paul Revere.
All right. Next on the rundown, new documents released